Hello, everyone. I'm Brian Sommer, and with me again is Mr. Vinnie Mirchandani, and we're going to go through another episode of Burning Platform. Today's topic is something that gets a lot of press these days and is the focus of tons of studies, and that's work from home. And we'd like to spend a couple of minutes talking about some of the things we'd seen in the past, what worked and didn't work, but also like to definitely focus this conversation about where this is going to be going and moving forward. To start it off, let's see what Vinny has to say.
Brian, should we call it work from ranch? Tell us about where you're working from today.
That beautiful structure in the background, has been the beneficiary of untold amounts of capital over the last almost 100 years. That's the horse stable on the ranch, and it's definitely seen better days. So call it, work from ranch is fine. It'll work for me today. But anyway, you were going to say, Vinny?
Actually, it's a good metaphor for work from home. Means a lot of different unpredictable scenarios. Means a lot more capex than people are used to. A lot more security issues that many companies have not yet factored. And of course, knowing you, Brian, there's always a concern about productivity from remote work. So a lot of new issues coming up. You and I have faced them because we've kind of been hybrid mode. We've done remote work, but we've flown a lot too at the same time. But there's a lot of issues that we've learned from and brand new ones that need to be factored.
So a couple of things that have struck me. I do disagree a little bit with the capital. Now, I know some people that are spending obscene amounts of money creating home studios, but for the most part, you can outfit a home office for not a whole lot of coin. The trick, frankly, this year has been, can anybody find any of the equipment? Laptops have been in short supply, microphones and other kind of things. And obviously, of course, I have this high quality studio behind me, the ranch. But
on that, I think what HR may have to do is come up with different personas, right? So marketing person may need a TV studio at home, whereas somebody who is primarily doing data entry may need a completely different set of kitting. So we may need to move to profiles or personas and come up with work from home infrastructure definitions based on that.
The good news is most of this is a one-time kind of cost. You set somebody up once, and then what do you got to buy after that? Maybe some consumable supplies, some paper for the inkjet printer. But it's not break the bank kind of stuff in most cases. And I would agree with you on the persona point. I can't believe I said that this early in the deal that I agree with you on something. But going forward, I think we've got to look at where other money is going to be spent beyond all the licensing issues that we've heard a lot about in the last 6 months, not having enough remote access tools and products and the like. But there are questions about employers. Some want to spy on their employees to make sure that they're being productive and working 24/7 while at home. And I think there are different answers and different equipping challenges in different parts of the world and by different roles. I don't think I think the last thing an employer ought to be focusing in on is spying unless there's just an absolute business requirement that they do so.
I would say, Brian, again, it probably is an HR issue, but we need some fairly specific productivity metrics. And for some jobs, they've never been defined, right? So I was one of the earliest Gartner remote analysts in 1995. Gartner fortunately had a lot of metrics, so they could measure whether I was productive. A lot of companies don't have that. And so, I agree with you. Spying and all that is a little too, far a bridge, but I think HR needs to come up with productivity measures.
Well, before you get too wound up on productivity, a lot of studies are already showing that productivity has actually gone up in many cases and in many places since the work from home phenomenon kind of exploded. And part of that has to do with, frankly, folks aren't wasting a lot of time either at the office and commuting. That commuting time's down, and we go through all the other kind of factors. But it turns out productivity hasn't been that badly affected. Now, I want to caveat it. Not always the case in every country, every role, and so forth. We know that there are some countries where productivity definitely took a hit because you couldn't get broadband internet access to individuals' homes. They might have had it on their smartphone, but not at home. And we also know there's some situations where people can only work on certain confidential information at their office location because of contractual agreements they have. This is common in call centers. So it's an uneven deal. I'm not sure HR alone can come up with all those productivity stats, but it's not where I think some of the biggest worries are right now.
I do think from a security and a privacy perspective, especially in the outsourcing world, it's going to be an issue because, I mean, many of the work from home environments are insecure by most definitions, right? So you have people, laptops being exposed to all kinds of relatives, neighbors, etc. I think the whole work from home security will have to be pretty carefully looked at.
I would agree. In fact, I get it that a lot of companies and a lot of employees did what they absolutely had to do at the start of the way this pandemic deal was unfolding. But as time goes on, they've got to address these points. And I don't feel comfortable with somebody having all my personal identifiable information at home where they have access to cameras and they could write stuff down and everything else. It just leaves me with a very uneasy feeling with regard to that.
Let's talk on the positive side, Brian. You talked about productivity. I've been amazed. I thought, in our careers, we would never see a software sale without needing to go into a client's site, right? And at least in the smaller deals, we've heard from several software vendors that's happened. Same
Yes.
thing with remote implementations, right? I never thought you could do a project without walking the halls. So there have been some significant moves forward.
There has. It is interesting. I think a lot of sales have been easy to make as infill sales or add-on sales, and you didn't have to go there. I think there were some abuses in the past that hopefully we'll get around. I know you and I were doing a selection a little over a year ago, and one of the major vendors sent 15 people down to do a demo. I mean, I'd never seen a situation where there were more salespeople than there were clients in the buying room, and we actually had to split them up into 2 conference rooms. Some of that kind of stuff's got to change and go away. I think questioning whether people need to travel as much is going to maybe a huge bottom line savings for a company. It's not a productivity savings, but it will be a savings nonetheless. Well, let's get some counsel to our clients. For me, I think the biggest observation is that we all need to look at this work from home phenomenon as one extreme of the pendulum swing that's been going on much of this year. Will it go all the way back to where it was prior to the pandemic? I don't think so. I think we're going to end up with something in between. And I think managers and executives need to look at this with a fresh set of eyes and a new set of perspectives to figure out really where they want to go. And when they do that, I think they need to check in with the workforce and find out what do workers really want and understand those needs first before making any dramatic changes. Vinnie.
I agree with you. I think we're going to move to a hybrid model. I heard an executive say, just like we moved to casual Fridays, we may move to a work from home Friday. I don't know if it'll only be 1 day a week, but we'll have to factor that physical versus the digital presence parity will have to be figured out. I think probably more than you, I think a lot more investment will have to be put into work from home infrastructure, bandwidth, maybe dedicated lines so they don't have to compete with their families and so on. So a lot of new issues that IT, finance, and HR will definitely have to factor going forward.
Well, my final counsel to clients would also include don't be in a rush to jam some changes down with your workers. I know I was with an organization that adopted hoteling and other concepts in a very abrupt manner because they wanted to save on their office space cost. I know a lot of companies are actually rethinking that right now because of work from home and how well it's worked out so far. But just because you can doesn't necessarily mean you should. And you need to be careful. And that's why I advise check in with workers and find out what's really going to work for people, because it may be a very individual kind of thing in some cases. So just be careful.
It's actually also family oriented, right? In certain ethnic groups, the multi-generational families.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are better in social situations. Younger workers like social situations. So yeah, it's not a one size fits all.
All right. Well, to wrap, let's just say, I don't know when I'm going to see you again, Vinny, at either an industry analyst event or at a client site, but it'll be interesting to see a whole bunch of faces I haven't seen in a while. So someday I'm ready to get out of work from home, pretty soon here. Plus my car is going through the DTs. It hasn't been to the airport remote parking lot in 8 months now. So I'm looking forward to it.
Let's face it, you want to get into a hotel and get away from your dog.
Yeah.
Take me for a walk.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, everyone, stay safe, and we'll catch you on the next issue of Burning Platform.